To WCA America 2015. I am Solid Jake, and I am joined by the one and only Corey Hover.
Oh, that's me. But before we get into any of the action tonight, let's talk a little bit about what this is that we're going to be watching. This is, of course, the WCA America Qualifier for Heroes of the Storm. And WCA, of course, is the organization that is sponsoring this event, and they are putting up the largest prize pool that we have seen to date for the Heroes of the Storm competitive community. Now, for this qualifier alone, the winner of this event, of course, that will be decided on June 1st, live here in the Burbank studio, will be flown out to the global finals in China. The runner-up from this event will be flown out to PAX Prime at the end of August, where they get another chance to battle it out with the winners from the Open Qualifier to go to that same event, the Global Championship in China.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually, there's so much on the line here, Kubi, but this weekend, or this week, excuse me, it's the weekdays, we have had 8 teams duking it out for the first phase of this tournament. And we can actually just look at the 4 teams that are still remaining in the bracket. We have Cloud9 Maelstrom versus 2Arc Gaming. That'll be our first game of the day. And after that, we have Tempo Storm versus Zeveron.
Absolutely. Cloud9 Maelstrom versus 2Arc Gaming. Of course, as you mentioned, that is going to be our first game. And that's going to be a very, very interesting one. We have seen these guys duke it out actually very recently in the ESL NA Major League, and they had a very close series. It was 2-1. And in fact, 2Arc is the only team to have taken even a game off of Cloud9 Maelstrom in this second season. So if anyone's going to be able to do it, seems like right now it's going to be 2Arc.
But that also means that Cloud9, they're sitting at that #1 spot. If we look at ESL Majors alone, they are 10-1 for their record, and that is actually just something impressive. So they're the team to beat, but like you mentioned, I really do think 2Arc has what it takes to take the win.
Yeah. Absolutely. But we can also talk about our second match as well. That is going to be Tempo Storm versus Zeveron. Now, Zeveron's kind of a wild card team in this event. We haven't seen much of their play in the higher levels of the Heroes of the Storm competitive. They're a new team. But I have to mention that these guys are veterans on the team. We've seen all over the place. Glorious, Evil Geniuses, just players from all over have sort of formed together to get this super team, and it seems like the cohesiveness is there. They were able to take out the higher seeded team Complexity yesterday, so they're looking very strong and poised to take out Tempo Storm.
And they defeated Complexity in convincing fashion. 4 teams that have a lot on the line. There's $19,000 in this prize pool, and we can actually just take a quick look at the format. We can see it's going to be a best-of-3 single elimination bracket. As I just mentioned, $19,000 up for grabs. It's 10 grand for first, 5 grand for second, and all of the teams that have made it this far are guaranteed at least $2,000, even if they lose today.
That's right. And the teams that advance to the finals that we'll be seeing on June 1st, they get at least $5,000, and that's just for second place, $10K for first place in that event. So, as you mentioned, a lot is on the line.
And this is just the pro qualifier. Like we talked about earlier, there's a greater picture to all of this. After this, even if you get second place, you advance to another event from the Open Qualifier over in Seattle. I believe it's going to be actually tied into PAX Prime later this year. And all of that culminates in China at the end of the year for a massive prize pool, which we are told is over $100,000.
All right, so guys, please get on social media. Use the hashtag WCA2015. Let us know who you guys think are going to be the teams that are going to advance to the finals here in Burbank on June 1st.
Now, Kubi, this is the second day of the new patch. The new patch came out yesterday. Kael'thas was introduced to the game. He will be banned out for the duration of today. No Kael'thas, global ban, but we do have a lot of other massive changes. Yesterday, we saw a rise of Muradin. Do you think that trend will continue?
I don't see why not, but it's kind of hard to argue this between the two, because on one hand, it was, you know, a fresh patch yesterday. It started out, it was maybe 3 or 4 hours from when the patch had launched. So teams are going to run with what's comfortable. Muradin had seen pretty much just strictly buffs, and there were a lot of the other warriors that were very heavily in the meta. Diablo, ETC had seen a ton of changes, so I'm sure that the teams weren't feeling particularly comfortable, and it's exactly why we saw a lot of Tyrael and a lot of Muradin. I'm not sure that we're going to see that trend necessarily change. I'm sure if teams want to play very standard, they will continue to play Muradin, but now they've had some time to mess around with Diablo, to see what's new with ETC, etc. Oh, you like that? But no, exactly. So that they can try out something new if they want to today. And I think if we're going to see crazy play, it's going to be showcased here.
All right, so we talked about those 4 Warriors, but we've actually seen quite a few changes on Anubarak.
That's
Do you
true.
think that we'll see any changes on Anubarak or any play on this hero? Because they improved the AI of the Beetle, which was one of his bigger issues when we looked at him as a hero in general. And we do have the lifesteal being pretty prominent in terms of when they're actually hitting all of those targets and not just kind of hanging out in the middle of a bush doing nothing. Do you think we'll see him played at all today?
It's very possible, and honestly, we have noticed that Cloud9 Maelstrom really likes to run that crazy composition. It seems to involve Anubarak, Murky, Brightwing, and it's just this wacky style of play. Now, granted, they've been running it against teams where for sure there's a mismatch, and it's usually the second game after they've taken a very deciding first game. And they use this web wrap, octograb style that is very difficult to deal with. It turns the fight into a 3v5, and it's something that a lot of teams are very much not used to dealing with. If anything, it makes that style a lot more viable, and for sure, we could see it run today, even if it's up against a team such as 2Ark that's a very formidable opponent.
2Ark, they have what it takes. Cloud9, they are #1 in the standings, pretty much globally if you look at it that way. I mean, a lot of people will say that if you look at Europe, it's all about Na'Vi and Team Liquid. North America, the Kings are Cloud9, Maelstrom, and Tempostorm. So they are the favorites to advance to the finals for this event. But we've seen 2Ark, pull out crazy strategies, running with no warrior. They go in with Kerrigan, sometimes Kerrigan Illidan. We saw that on Monday. And just pick apart Cloud9 Vortex in convincing fashion. But on the other hand, we have Zeveron going up against Tempostorm. And Zeveron, like you mentioned, the entire roster is players that are seasoned all over the place. They have played with teams that have won multiple events. Almost every single player on that team has actually taken a tournament with a different squad. And I just can't wait to see how they can do against Tempostorm, especially in this new patch.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the games that we saw yesterday right after the patch had launched were very much so dive compositions or very, very standard Murd and Jaina and just play like a very passive, rotation-heavy composition. Even Tempostorm, where they were known back in the day for having this when the opportunity is right, even if it seems like a questionable decision, they always knew the snap call to go in and dive on the core. Not actually going to be the case. We saw them take their time, very patient, methodical style play, and they still were able to take a very clean 2-0 victory. So nothing too crazy was run yesterday, but I'm really excited to see, now that the teams have had some time to mess around with the patch, what they're going to come up with for strategies today.
All right, guys, we'll just give you a brief update as to where we are right now. We're getting ready for the first game of the tournament. It will be between Cloud9 Maelstrom and 2Ark, but currently one of the players is having some internet difficulties. As a result, we're kind of waiting it out because we can't go in with 9 players. It wouldn't really work out all that well.
That's kind of rough. All right, so do we have any idea as to what the timeline is for him to get back in, what the ruling is on that? Are you sure?
Well, the ruling is he has 15 minutes to actually get back online ready for the match. So that's kind of the grace period that is allowed. He had a sudden internet disconnect. He was online when we created the lobby initially, so hopefully it's just the reset of a router and he'll be all set up and good to go.
Okay, so yesterday I noticed that in I think just about every game, maybe save one of them, Illidan was banned out. It was just every time. So no Illidan play on this new patch. But in the previous series that we saw between Cloud9 Maelstrom and 2Ark Gaming, Illidan was a very, very large proponent in 2Ark Maelstrom's, not 2Ark Maelstrom, Cloud9 Maelstrom's success.
Teams.
Yeah, I know, right? But it was a huge part of their success. So
right.
I'm curious as to we're going to see some play around that in the draft to sort of take away some of the key parts to Maelstrom's strategy. They also really like Brightwing as well. We've seen time and time again, Dunk Train has made a huge amount of plays with the Emerald Wind, especially being able to lock down and provide a huge amount of control for Illidan to go in and do his work with those auto attacks with the lifesteal.
All right, so here's something that's really cool is the fact that we had 2Ark running without a warrior, and we have other teams that are prioritizing Muradin very early. Do you think that's an advantage of 2Ark, where the fact that they're just not running with warriors right now to just kind of not have to even think about it and scoop up something like Kerrigan or Illidan very early, force those bans out, or is that an advantage for Cloud9 coming into this event, knowing that might be what they want to do?
Oh, that's the thing, but again, there's a huge variable of this new patch. That style did work for them, and those games were super close, I got to say. Honestly, we're going into the draft. I remember the second game was just like, okay, you had something with Kerrigan Illidan before. It seems like, yeah, it's crazy enough to work if your positioning is very much on point, but without the CC of a tank, it feels very scary. They were able to pull it off, but now with all these changes to the Warriors, are they able to manipulate and weave around those CCs to make sure that their composition is effective? A lot of it is very dependent on Illidan being able to self-sustain, Kerrigan being able to use her trait to self-sustain as well. And if you're not completely comfortable with how you can deal with the enemy's CCs, I'm not so sure that they'll be confident to run that style.
Well, we will find out very soon, guys. We're actually going to throw to a quick commercial break while we get this disconnect sorted out. So stay with us. Game number 1 will be starting very soon. Alrighty, guys, welcome back here to WCA America 2015. I am Solid Jake, joined by Corey Kubi Hover.
Ooh, let's see what you did. That was nice. That's sneaky. All right, a little bit of an update for you guys. It looks as though we're going to be able to swap over to the other side of the bracket. So we're going to be watching Tempo Storm versus Zeveron as our first game. So we're just going to try to give a little bit more time to get all of the members in for that first series. So you guys can see the bracket right there. So we're going to jump down to the bottom side. And so we talked a little bit about Tempo Storm versus Zeveron. A couple of other things that I wanted to bring up that are sort of interesting from an analyst standpoint is that when you look at trying to prepare for these matches for either side, of course, they're going to look at the only resources that are available, and that would be yesterday's matches. Now, Zeveron versus Complexity was a very, very close set. Long games from both sides, and there's a lot of material, and when you have a close series like that, you're going to pull out all your stops. We even saw really interesting strategies in the form of double promote being picked up from Zeveron as well, so we hadn't seen that before, so they had to pull out some of the aces from their sleeves, right, to try to make those plays. Tempo Storm can analyze this, right, and try to come up with counterplays. They have this whole day to come up with these strategies. On the other hand, Tempo Storm had a fairly clean series against Cognitive Gaming. There wasn't a lot of crazy play there. Tempo Storm had fairly basic strategies from what we saw before the patch. So from the Zeveron standpoint, there's not a lot to analyze, I would say.
Definitely not as much, like you mentioned, because of that almost disadvantage on not having seen the opponent on the new patch. But at the same time, you can look at it in both ways. Playing on the new patch, getting a feel for the changes made in the game in an actual competitive series where there's a lot on the line is quite nice. So you can look at it in both ways, Coobs.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point to make. Also, there is the fact that Zeveron is a brand new team and a lot of experienced and seasoned players on there as well. So Tempo Storm probably doesn't have a lot of experience playing against Zeveron like they would have against anyone else in this bracket. So that can also be a wild card. We've brought it up again previously that this could be a very big factor for Tempo Storm going forward into this series.
Well, guys, we are getting everything set up here for the second series, and just to update everyone, if you're just tuning in, originally we had scheduled Cloud9 Maelstrom and 2ARC to be the first series of the day, but unfortunately, one of the players was unable to get online, so we're giving him a bit of time to get that corrected, and we will be doing Tempo Storm versus Zeveron as our first match. That's what we're setting up right now, and Kubi, it's going to be a doozy.
Doozy indeed. I'm really excited about this. Of course, winners from this series on either side get to be flown out to the live event here in the Burbank studios, and they get to play. I think this will be the first live event for competitive Heroes of the Storm. Of course, we have seen Heroes of the Storm and BlizzCon as well, but for a full competitive team to be brought in, it's going to be really exciting, and I just can't wait to see the games.
Yeah, well, we are getting that lobby set up. We actually have 9 of the 10 players in there already, so we're in a good spot at this point in time. The game should be starting soon, and the first map of today is going to be Cursed Hollow. Cursed Hollow, of course, is a tri-lane map. The objective is to collect tributes which will spawn across the map. The first tribute is guaranteed to be in the top center or bottom center, and when you collect 3, you curse the enemy team, making it so that their towers do not fire back and their minions are reduced to a single hit point, giving you a huge advantage for that push.
Okay, Jake. While we're waiting for this lobby to get set up and for the match to be ready, we played a little bit on the patch today. Now, Kael'thas is banned out. Right, he's not going to be available in this series, but I saw that you were playing quite a bit of Kael'thas. You got any opinions on him yet? How do you feel?
All right, so Kael'thas, he is that new assassin in the game, and I've played a fair amount of games as him. I've been messing around with all different kind of builds. I've been talking to people like Dreadnought, who apparently believes that an E build where you use the gravity lift is going to be one of the ways to play him. But I think the key to playing Kael'thas correctly is using the Living Bomb. Some of the talents to increase the damage on it and just spread Living Bombs all over the enemy team is going to have disgusting synergy with things like Johanna when she releases, potentially even a Gravo Bomb right now, or any kind of just crowd control on the opposing side with Living Bomb. Very scary potential moving forward.
Yeah, and the reason that I bring this up, of course, like we said, not going to be played in this event, but in just a couple weeks' time, Kael'thas will be able to be played. So he is probably going to be a big contender, a big part to the strategies from both teams, whichever ones decide to advance from this round of 4 series. So yeah, Kael'thas is going to be a big part of that, and it's going to be really cool to see how teams start to utilize him.
All right, well, the draft, we have one team readied up. We're waiting on Tempo Storm to give us that go-ahead with the draft, but as soon as they are good to go, this draft will begin. Oh, no, I got excited for a moment. I thought I had the signal coming on the screen, but not quite. Now, you talked about KT, right? KT Rolster, we'll call him for now.
Sure.
He will, in fact, be very viable moving forward, but today he will not be played. The draft is, in fact, ready to roll, and we're going to hop right on into it.
All right, so thank you guys for sitting tight with us while we try to get these matches swapped around, but like you mentioned, as you guys can see, we do have the first draft. It is started up. Tempo Storm with the first pick, first ban. Yes, I love it. Okay, Kerrigan is banned out. We've seen so much Kerrigan play over the past 2 days, and she seems to be a large factor for all the teams that want to try to get that early experience lead moving up to level 10.
It's crazy at how much a new patch can shift the meta. We have Muradin for Tempo Storm as the first pickup. Brightwing is going to be one of the first pickups by Zeveron. Both of these we would have been shocked to see a couple weeks ago.
I was looking through the drafts from both teams previously, and I noticed that actually, is it all 3 of these heroes? No, okay, all right. It's Jaina is going to be the other one. I'm almost guaranteed that Tempo Storm will pick up Jaina within this next wave. But Jaina, Brightwing, and Muradin were played a large majority of the games between these two teams. Of course, they were against different opponents, but it doesn't surprise me at all to see them picked up, and they're just very highly contested heroes between the two teams, and no surprise to see them scooped up so early in the draft.
Now, we're looking at this next pickup that Tempo Storm has. Tyrande, Vala, which do you prefer?
Tyrande or Vala to fill out this composition? I think Vala is a very safe play, and you don't really know the direction that Zeveron is going with their composition so far.
But with Tyrande, we're talking about Cursed Hollow. That gives you suddenly this trio that can really just pick one hero out and blow them up very quickly between the Lunar Flare, the Hunter Mark. We've definitely seen that style have a lot of success on Cursed Hollow.
Good points, but the other thing to mention too is that the Lost Vikings haven't been picked up yet. And again, they received some changes in this previous patch, 10 more seconds on the jump ability, which is very highly picked up by a lot of teams. That's one of their big escapes. Also, the Longboat Raid. If it is destroyed in battle, there's a 1.5 second stun. We honestly, okay, there they are, picked up right away by Zeveron. In addition to having Brightwing and Sylvanas, we have Tassadar, and now the Lost Vikings.
So super well-rounded team on the side of Zeveron. They have Sylvanas for just that push and the damage. Vikings, like you mentioned, they can split up and soak 2 lanes at once while you send 4 down to a tribute. Brightwing, she's got the global presence and the healing, and Tassadar, the pseudo support, the middle of the road pick.
That's right. So we still need to see what... Oh, you know what is crazy as well is that Uther hasn't been picked up. Uther was one of the first grabs from either of the series yesterday that we watched. Surprising to see. I would almost guess that that is going to be the pickup for the support for Tempo Storm here. And they're probably going to grab some additional damage as well to round out their composition. But what is that going to be? Is it going to be Tyrande like you mentioned?
Well, one of the really interesting things about Uther, why he hasn't been picked up to this point in the draft, is the fact that Kerrigan and Illidan are 2 of the heroes that have the most synergy with him. So when they're removed from the game, he's a little bit less scary in the sense that, yes, Divine Shield is terrifying, and it gives him this ridiculous amount of freedom to do whatever they like. So he still makes a lot of sense, but let's think about what else he works with. Illidan with Shadow Assault? Oh, not going to be the case. They're going for Tyrande, and they should finalize this with Uther.
Very much so, yeah, and they will have a large amount of healing available to their team. Of course, Muradin, a very, very tanky hero, especially at level 16. He gets that Stone Form ability. That's 50% of his HP self-healed over 8 seconds. So, very, very tanky team, and they'll have the... I'm guessing they'll have the 2 supports available to keep Jaina and Vala alive as well.
Yeah,
very standard composition so far.
Assuming that we do end up seeing Uther as that final pickup, in the past we have seen crazy things. Now, we talked about Illidan and Kerrigan having great synergy with it, but we've actually seen Jaina running forward with sprint, like just charging at the enemy team with no fear because of the invincibility that is provided. But no, not what they're going for here. They actually end up picking up Malfurion.
Malfurion, very interesting choice. He has the highest amount of healing output, total healing output, but it's not bursty like you would see with Uther. Doesn't provide as much control, but they have a decent amount of it between Muradin and Tyrande as well. So with the roots, and that's another opportunity to land the roots, as it does have a fairly high startup, or at least you need to make sure that it's positioned immaculately, right? Zeveron still needs to pick up their warrior. Do they feel comfortable running some of these heavily changed warriors, like maybe a Nubarak seeing play, like you mentioned, ETC, Diablo even? He seemed to have seen probably the most changes of all the other warriors.
Yeah, Diablo is very interesting. We both play tested him briefly, and he seems a little bit squishier compared to his previous iteration. And they do go for that crazy pick. They pick up a Nubarak. Kubi, with all the speculation, I actually didn't think we would see him, especially in a composition like this.
Absolutely. So, I mean, a Nubarak used to be played so much in the probably like 3 or 4 months ago. This was back when he had Rewind at level 13. Very strong ability, allowed him to burrow charge in, throw down his Impale, Rewind. He could do his burrow charge out. Very, very safe hero. Now he seems to probably going to be putting a lot of reliance on the new Beetles. Whether or not he's going to go for a full Beetle build, it's hard to say, and the Beetles will allow him to really get a lot of lifesteal whenever they're out, and you can summon them every 8 seconds. There's a lot of different ways to build a Nubarak. What we've seen previously is a heavy reliance on CC. But before we get into that, guys, please get on social media. Use the hashtag WCA2015. Follow WCA_America. Tweet at us. We want to know, who do you guys think won the draft? Is a Nubarak ready to be in the meta? Let us know.
I really hope he is ready, Kubi, because a Nubarak has such an exciting form of play. He goes in with that burrow charge, just laying out the stuns. But looking at their composition, they don't have a ton of follow-up to that, so it's going to be very interesting. And the big thing that a Nubarak has to be worried about is when he does use that burrow charge to get in. If he does use it aggressively, Muradin will be happy to greet him with the Stormbolt, stunning him out, and then Jaina has her entire kit to slow him and just do massive amounts of damage.
Very good points, but the only times that we've seen a Nubarak picked up previously was by Cloud9 Maelstrom, so I was honestly not even expecting to see a Nubarak picked up by any team other than them today, but it seems as though Zeveron feeling comfortable enough to make this pick. But the big thing is that they've been running Web Wrap, and it was in a very specific composition. Now there's the potential to have Locust Swarm, which is a heroic we haven't even seen too much of, but it's a ton of lifesteal in the middle of the abilities. But before we even talk more about that, we do have game number 1 underway. Let's get to introducing these teams. On the left side, that's going to be Zeveron. We have Cathan Luck on the Lost Vikings. We have Fury is going to be playing a Nubarak in the bottom lane. Equinox on Tassadar. Faye is going to be playing Sylvanas, and rounding it out on the top, Mad Timmy on Brightwing.
But on the right side of the map, we do have Tempo Storm. That's going to be Arthalon playing as Jaina. Glaurung will be Muradin playing the tank. Soldier on Tyrande. Keo will be playing Vala, and Dreadnought will be on Malfurion, rounding out the team. The stakes are high. The losing team is guaranteed $2,000, but the winning team, they will get a minimum of $5,000 in this event.
Super hype. We actually see the very aggressive Watchtower take from Glaurung. I just want to point out real quick, I really like the matching between the mount and the costume for Dreadnought. Very nicely done. I gotta say, a nice touch.
Arthalon uses my exact combo, and he's just a man after my heart. Now, guys, we can see that Ollie, a big shout out to him,
yes,
has
absolutely
in fact fixed the overlay. He's got the talents back on the screen for us, and we can actually just look at the build. Brightwing going for that scouting drone, just make sure that he has eyes on as often as possible, but a Nubarak, he's doing the Beetle build.
Okay, yeah, so this Beetle build, actually another good thing to point out, and it seems to be the direction they're going, is a lot of sustain for a Nubarak, but it's also soaking up a ton of these tower shots. Look at this. They've already got the bottom tower in the bottom lane already taken down. Half of the ammunition for that top tower is gone. And the Vikings, again, we have to mention this, they allow for a huge amount of soaking potential to see them split up. They're still collecting experience for the team, so you can see that EXP is very even right now, but the push potential is very real for Zeveron.
Yeah, I mean, when you're allowed to have a 4v3, especially with Sylvanas on your team, these towers, they fall like nothing, and once this tower does fall, that's when we'll see Zeveron want to start to rotate around and pick off more. So the damage has been done. Picking off the fort is a little bit more risky. They're going to back up and find more towers in other lanes.
So I'm thinking a little bit about what the team fighting is going to look like at level 10, and we were sort of theory crafting a little bit about a Nubarak and, you know, how he has to play very safely, the positioning has to be on point because he's not as tanky as some of the other heroes. It's like when Sonya leaps in, she needs to make sure that the follow-up is there to eliminate a target very quickly. No different for a Nubarak, but the thing is, there's a silence to back him up, right? If he's able to line up the burrow charge to allow us a big silence to hit, that's a huge amount of value that he's going to be able to get off of Locust Swarm. It's going to be crazy if they can set it up.
Yeah, and then you have to include the polymorph into that equation as well. There is quite a few scary things that can happen in this event. but Tempo Storm is doing their best to handle it. Right now, they're just trying to defend, they're trying to push this wave back and make sure they don't fall too far behind in experience. But when you see that the 4th tower of this game is about to fall, you can see that there is very much an experience lead for Zeveron.
Absolutely. And look at this. We have Promote picked up once again for Brightwing. And this is, you're giving up Protective Shield. That's a lot of burst healing potential for Brightwing. But we saw the Promote play yesterday. It was actually with Tassadar, but actually I see that he is going Healing Ward as well. And that's interesting because that was changed to an AoE damage. Hold on a second. Arthlon very, very low. He's getting chased down by those beetles.
Oh,
not quite going to fall. That is going to zone out Tempo Storm from being able to capture this tribute, and it is going to go 1-0 in favor of Zeveron.
Yeah, the positioning from Arthlon was so very aggressive, but he wanted to do his best to stop that tribute from being captured. If they're winning in every form on the map in terms of getting that structural damage on, pushing, soaking, having experience lead, and getting tributes, that can become a problem. In Tempo Storm, they're on the back foot because this fort is being blown up very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. This is crazy to see a fort taken down this early in the game, but that is the power of Sylvanas combined with the Lost Vikings. That's just a free amount of crazy push. Also, can't knock at the beetles and the potential they have to soak up tower shots if those towers aren't disabled from Sylvanas as well. Look at this, how forward they are. They're already going to the keep wall in the bottom lane.
I mean, that's the power provided by Sylvanas, and you mentioned this. We have Promote on Brightwing, and we have these beetles, the full beetle build, Leeching Scarabs. We have the Legion of Beetles and Assault Scarab. This just makes a massive array of, just a massive line of units to soak up so many shots from those towers, and if they can't fire, you don't even need to soak them up.
Yeah, and they're just providing extra DPS output for those structures. A little bit of a response from Tempo Storm. They're looking, yeah, we see the cleanse, just to make sure that Fury is able to get out of there. Nice play. And Matt Timmy's making use of the phase shift to get out or rotate across the map to try to provide some counter pressure to the assault that's going on in the top lane from Tempo Storm. KO actually getting some work done.
Yeah, they got that wall down, but not really a whole lot of damage done to that top fort. That will help them catch up a little bit in terms of experience, but they are a full level down at this point in time, and Zeveron is in position to capture the 2nd tribute in a row. 2-0 in favor of them.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of mercenary camps taken, as we noticed that Zeveron is taking the Bruiser camp on their side of the map. So they're giving up a little bit on this split pushing, if you want to call it that, from that the Vikings are providing. But taking this mercenary camp, this could set themselves up in a very, very nice spot for this 3rd tribute. If they have to, if Tempo Storm needs to respond to it, it can be a lot of trouble. Look at this; they're already starting to ping at this boss, but they get sighted.
Yeah, the Sentinel did in fact provide vision, and Tempo Storm is going to just see them back out. That will mean they don't have to respond to it. One thing that I really want to talk about is the fact that Tyrande picked up the Mule. This is a talent that is strictly saying, hey, look, we respect the amount of push you've put on us already. We need to make sure we don't lose too much on the health of our structures, and the Mule will help mitigate all of that damage being done to them.
Another interesting talent is the battle momentum grabbed at level 7 for Malfurion. Not something we usually see. More often than not, it's the Enduring Overgrowth. Is that?
Yes,
yeah, so that's the extra heal. He could have also picked up Mule there, maybe a Loon's Grace for the extra range on his abilities, but battle momentum is a very strange one, so we'll see if that allows him to get his heroic off cooldown more often than not.
But this is the 3rd tribute of the game. Fury doing his best to stall it out, because if this is picked up by Zeveron, they get a curse. Tempo Storm is doing everything they can to defend it, but level 10 has been picked up by Zeveron, and now Tempo has to retreat.
There it is, the Locust Swarm picked up for Anubarak, the Silence, the Longboat Raid, the Archon, a huge amount of damage and AoE output available for Zeveron. I expect we'll probably see a Blink heal for Matt Timmy's Brightwing, just to make sure that they have the sustain to get through this, but that is a scary composition of heroics there.
Oh my goodness, there's just so much damage potential, so much control over the battlefield, and Tempo Storm, they just need to soak and hit level 10. The curse is active on them. The bottom 4 has already been destroyed, and this top 1 is whittling away oh so very quickly.
Still continuing to split push, the Vikings are all across the map, and it's netting Zeveron a huge amount of an experience lead. One thing that I have to point out, and this has really been sort of a hallmark of Tempo Storm's playstyle, is that they have not been strong in the early game. I remember the first time that they played cross-server and they went to EU, it seemed like so many of their games they fell massively behind in the early game, but still always managed to find that way to come back in the late game. And that's really the exciting part about Heroes of the Storm, is that comeback potential is always there.
And look at this, they did pick off Eric, that's one of the Vikings, and we see the Go is being used by Olaf and Balog, the other two Vikings. They actually do succeed in forcing Zeveron off of that boss, and Zeveron wasted so much time of their curse trying to take that boss. So in the grand scheme of things, that's a pretty big deal. A lot of time spent, and Tempo Storm now has those level 10 heroics.
Absolutely, but the structure advantage that Zeveron has is huge. All three of the forts are now down for Tempo Storm. The keep wall is down in the bottom lane. Yes, heroics have been picked up for Tempo Storm, so we're going to have to see how they want to adapt their strategy. If they are very strong in the team fight, that completely will negate the advantage that Zeveron has put forward in this early game.
Well, we'll see if they can do that, but those Vikings are continuing to push across the map, soaking, and pushing that lead further forward. But the rest of the players in this game are soaking up those bosses. Picking up one here for Tempo Storm, the other boss has been picked up by Zeveron.
Much larger advantage this boss will provide for Zeveron because that fort is already down and the structure damage is already there. If they're able to pick up these giants as well, that's going to be a huge mercenary push that Tempo Storm has to respond to.
All 5 members are here in this little bush, and Tempo Storm, they just know they cannot contest that. The giants are picked up, the boss is marching down this lane, and I'm not too sure if the mule is off cooldown, but this keep is actually in trouble.
It is, and we see that Brightwing's still in the mid lane. Zeveron is completely ignoring the golem in the top lane. They know that they have the advantage. They want to push with it. They have the level 13 talents. We see the double spell shield. We see the Norse Force. I mean, the Impatience of Virtue. That's a lot of mobility for all their heroes, and it looks as though they are going to be able to get this keep down. The mule was not placed down in time. This is a huge, huge early game advantage for Zeveron.
Man, taking down a keep that early is actually just insane. The Lunar Flare will not connect with Equinox, and he will be able to escape. And we can see the Vikings just pressuring in the back line. Tranquility is healing them up nicely, but one Viking will fall. Cthulhu about to lose Balog, but when in the grand scheme of things, that's so little experience, they don't have to be all too worried about it.
Yeah, we have to mention, of course, that the boss that was taken from Tempo Storm did manage to push through the fort in the top lane and got itself to the keep walls. So that might be an opportunity for Tempo Storm if they start taking some of these late game team fights. That will probably be the avenue of opportunity for them to run down if they find themselves an opening to finish the game or even go for a keep.
Yeah, like you mentioned though, Tempo Storm thrives in the late game. That is when they pull out their big moves. But looking at the talents right now, they have just caught up to level 13. We see that Malfurion will be using that Ice Block. He can actually pop the Ice Block while using Tranquility and be invulnerable for a period of time while healing up the rest of his team. Big plays can happen, but he has to be wary of that Wailing Arrow and the potential that it provides to silence him.
Oh, hold on a second. Arthon tried to take forward that offensive Watchtower. Fury was there to check him to make sure that he was not too far out of position, but of course he doesn't know how many members of Tempo Storm are going to follow up on that. Now, the big thing that Tempo Storm really does is they're very good in team fights, of course, but it seems as though their strength usually in the late game, and hold on a second, Fiore looking to initiate on Tempo Storm. We see the Starfall,
and Jaina is forced to sprint way out of the battle. She is now turning around and coming back in as she realizes she has to help the team out. The healing ward position is great, but Glaurung is getting very low. Dreadnought is forced to pop that Ice Block very early, and there's the Tranquility healing them up nicely. The Mule is doing his best to keep that fort alive, but it will end up falling, and not a single player has died in this fight so far.
But still, you can see the sustain that Zeveron has in this fight, even though Tranquility was popped. It doesn't seem like as though they made a lot of headway, even though Brightwing wasn't even there for the entirety of that fight. You can see Brightwing is just going down to the bottom lane of the map, wants to continue to get that promote wave pushing forward where there aren't keeps. They have that catapults pushing down in the bottom lane. We haven't even talked about that. The potential for promoted catapults is
scary.
My goodness.
They hit so very hard, and that's the least of the last thing they want to think about. It is a big concern, but they have to think about these tributes. It's 4-0 in favor of Zeveron at this point in the game, and they need to contest this top one. Tyrande still a bit from the fight. Brightwing can phase shift in from across the map.
Yeah, I think Tempo Storm really needs to try to make a play before Zeveron hits level 16. That is going to be a huge swing of power for Zeveron, and that will allow them to very easily take this tribute as long as the positioning is on even footing. And it looks as though they are going to be, thanks to the split push from Brightwing. We're probably going to see Brightwing phase shift in to start this fight, so keep an eye on that. There it is.
Yeah, even Eric is in the middle of the map. He's making his way up right now. That will give them the potential for longboat raid, but the talent advantage is not something you can take lightly. Critterize will blow through one of your heroes so very quickly, but we have the strafe coming in from the back. The silence is an immediate response, completely nullifying all of the potential for any abilities to be cast on the side of Tempo Storm. Two members fall very quickly. Glaurung is trying to get away, and it looks like he will succeed. Dreadnought right in the bush is going to hearth out. This is a huge push coming out of Zeveron.
And if they're able to pick up Glaurung, that will be a big deal. It looks as though he is able to use that Dwarf Toss to get the safety. Two members of Tempo Storm picked off. Level 16 is hit for Zeveron. They have a 2-0 curse advantage for this wave.
Wow, I mean, this is just such convincing play by Zeveron. Everything is looking great. We see the Beetles and the Giants marching in with that wave, but they're backing up. They're playing safe. They know if they throw in a single team fight like this, that's all it takes for Tempo Storm to come back. Yeah, they would be able to push on that top lane to take out at the keep at very least. Okay, so now we have to start thinking, like, what is the magic that Tempo Storm usually works in this late game? The first thing that I'm seeing, they need to soak and get to level 16. It's exactly what we see them doing. They're not getting aggressive. Now that they have those talents, they have access to things like imposing presence. On top of the reverberation, that's going to take out so much of the utility of the Archon that is providing a lot of DPS in the fights. A lot more root and control. Safety for Vala through the use of the Blood for Blood, and just like a massive amount of healing for Malfurion with the battle momentum and the hardened focus. Look at this. Eric is denying this pickup of the tribute while the rest of the team is trying to pick up that boss. Huge plays. The Vikings use that jump to escape from the potential of that Lunar Flare, staying alive. The boss will slowly regain its health if he is leashed, and he will just, now he's going to go back to full health very quickly. Tempo has successfully denied the pickup of the boss, but the tribute is still in wait.
Yeah, that's right. I like the positioning of the scouting drone there. Yes, the small area around the tribute does show you if someone is nearby and channeling it, but it's good for them to know if they have someone waiting in the bushes, perhaps around, and just want to keep an eye on the full positioning of Zeveron so that they can try to mount this comeback.
Dreadnought had no choice but to go help his team out. Eric then swooped up to pick up the tribute. That is 6-0 for the tribute count in this game. Zeveron has another curse, and this will give them so much more aggression, and we can't forget about the promote and catapults. This bottom lane is already completely pushed out.
So we got to start looking at the team fight. It seems as though they're really not able to out-rotate Zeveron. They seem very comfortable in this regard. Glaurung is just providing this poke, but I don't know if Tempo Storm is going to be able to get there in time. Actually, with the Golem only at half HP, they might be able to get in to stop. And it just shows the composure that Zeveron has. They realize how easy it is to overcommit to taking a Golem. They back up, and it seems like, this is the second time now that they've attempted to take one and realized the situation they were in and backed up. Very smart play.
But notice Tyrande isn't even here. The lanes are being sieged up massively. Yes, the Mule has been dropped, but can they even save this in time? The Mule is actually being attacked by the minions right now, and that keep is falling rather quickly.
And over in the bottom left corner of the map, once again, for the third time, Zeveron is looking to put pressure on this. But honestly, while all this is happening with the catapults pushing in the bottom lane, a lot of this distraction it's not so good. This is the window of opportunity for Tempo Storm to try to go in and take the kill while the talent tiers are fairly even. We see a lot of posturing between the two teams.
And the flank from the Vikings looks good, but they don't pop the longboat quite yet. I believe we still have most of the heroics available, and they are just going forward with that tranquility and the avatar of Muradin. We have the Lunar Flare connecting when the strafe is doing massive damage, but the silence comes out, hitting 3 targets of Tempo Storm. Starfall doing quite a bit, but it's not quite enough as Zeveron is full on in March mode, going in for the kills, the haunting wave of Sylvanas. But no, Faye says, I don't want to risk the death here. Let's just get the boss. That's all we need to secure our advantage.
They know they have the opportunity to do this, and the fourth time, I think they're going to be able to do it here. But no, Tempo Storm is perhaps looking to contest again. They only have the 3 members. It is very risky. Back to that team fight. There was a lot of really clutch plays that I liked a lot. First of all, I gotta say, kudos to Cthon Luck. I like the positioning on the Vikings. I remember saying this time and time again for some of the teams to make comebacks yesterday when they were playing the Vikings. It's so important to force hands with the Vikings to flank around from the backside. How early did we see the Tranquility popped in that fight? It was super early. They realized, like, all right, we have the Vikings pressuring us from the backside. We don't know who else is there. Heavy flank. You need to pop this early to make sure that I don't get bursted down really quick. That was a very nice play. Other one, can't ignore it. Sylvanas on, Faye playing Sylvanas. That was a huge silence that was thrown. I think it hit at least 4 members of Tempo Storm, and that provided so much control. If you can't cast any abilities, you cannot be safe.
It's really scary how powerful that heroic actually is, but that boss is also a big threat. Tempo Storm is forced to defend, but they know that if another boss is picked up, the game could end. So they're making a last-ditch effort, pushing in onto this boss, trying to force them back. Many heroics are still on cooldown, and there goes the Tranquility to keep Tempo Storm healthy.
Tempo Storm really wants to take this boss, and I think they're going to be able to do it. There is no burrow charge available for Fury for another couple seconds, so they are going to end up trading up bosses. But look at this in the bottom lane. The Golem is wailing away at the core. I don't think they're going to be able to get there in time. They do have the Mule on it, but it doesn't heal fast enough. He has more than a third of his HP. Are they going to be able to do it? It is going down to about 10%, 8% HP, 5%. Oh, they're going to be able to keep it alive, but this is it. Zeveron is making the final charge. Is Tempo Storm going to be able to hold them off? The Mule working super hard, but it's not going to be in time. Zeveron takes it. GG.
Incredible play by Zeveron. They had control the entire game, just from the early aggression that they had from Sylvanas and the Lost Vikings, pushing down those first 4 turrets to get the early experience lead. They continued with that advantage, and then the application of Promote, the new talent, well, not new talent, but the newly improved talent that now lasts for 30 seconds on all of the minions, netting them constant aggression in several lanes. Once they took out that first keep, that just helped that lead spiral further forward, and they just held it with very safe, passive, clean play.
Wow, just sheer confidence from Zeveron to know that they can pick Nubarak in this newly improved Beetle AI type meta and run with it. And just all of the plays they had were very clean, showed that they had a lot of experience with the game. How many times do we see them attempt to take golems and back up? They realize that this is the one place that you can absolutely throw the game away if you try to overcommit to a golem. And just the amount of reserve they had, they realized, yeah, we can still back up. Even if we give them this golem, it's not a big deal. But if they had lost the team fight there, gone back, defended the golem, that might have provided a huge amount of opportunity for Tempo Storm. So nice patient play from Zeveron, netted them a win.
Really, really impressive stuff out of that team. The next map of this Best of 3 series will be Dragonshire. Guys, we're going to get that set up now, so stay with us. We will be back in just a few. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to WCA America 2015. I'm Solid Jake Kalinsky, joined by Corey Kubihover.
Oh, I like it. All right, so we saw a crazy upset, I have to say, in the first game between Tempo Storm and Zeveron. Zeveron taking a 1-0 advantage with a very interesting style. They ran a new Barak and just a lot of, the Vikings with the Longboat Raid. Everything was sort of about, we're going to slowly kill you in this team fight. Even though there was a lot of sustained healing through the use of Malfurions, Tranquility, etc. But with the Locust Swarm, it was just super difficult to kill anyone on Zeveron during those team fights. The silences were very much on point. So a lot of really cool play, different from what we're used to seeing. Honestly, a lot of things came down to bursting with Kerrigan, diving in with the Hunter's Mark, etc., Jaina play. All of that has just sort of been pick a target, blow them up in the fight to get the advantage. But Zeveron taking a very different approach.
Yeah, Zeveron is going to open up this game with a ban on Illidan, and Tempo Storm says, you know what we saw what you were able to do with Sylvanas. None of that. Let's take her out of this game. And Zeveron's like, all right, we're happy to pick up Jaina.
They can take some comfort. That is a respect ban right there.
That is.
Sylvanas is not, it's not crazy to see Sylvanas banned, but it was a very quick ban. They had already come to this conclusion before the draft even started. Let's get rid of Sylvanas. That was a big reason why we lost some of those team fights. I think it's a smart decision.
I mean, everything about Sylvanas, just the early lead they got and the impact the Wailing Arrow can have on those team fights, massive, massive power in those games. But Tempo Storm,
Muradin, Brightwing. Nope, lied.
Right.
I was thinking, okay, they got a lot of use out of Brightwing, and again, Brightwing was one of those contested heroes between the two teams. With the promote changes and everything, Zeveron is already showing they're very comfortable with this style of play, and I wouldn't have been surprised at all to see those two heroes picked up. There's a lot. Do you think the Muradin was effective enough? Because we're already not seeing that picked up, and that seemed to be the name of the game for their first 3 matches that we've seen so far in this new patch.
I would almost expect them to pick up Muradin here. Muradin has a lot of synergy with Kerrigan. They both have that leap forward where Kerrigan can go forward with her Q. Muradin can equally just use Dwarf Toss. They both have stuns and just a lot of synergy in general. And when we think about Dragonshire, the distance between the middle map and the middle lane and the bottom lane is very small, so that's when we'll constantly see the rotations happening with these kind of heroes.
Do we see the Brightwing pickup here? I gotta mention it again. It was very well played. The split pushing was very, very solid. Also, once again, the Vikings are available. Zeveron made very, very good use of the Vikings. The split push was solid. They had super, super strong early push, taking the fort down like within 3 or 4 minutes in the first game. They were already pushing to the keep wall before 5 minutes, something we very rarely see, but very good Vikings play to allow the rest of the team to make those rotations.
I almost expect Zeveron to want to grab Vala and maybe even the Vikings right now. But if they do that, they're giving up Tyrande. So that's kind of a hard choice to make. Do we just allow them to have Tyrande, or do we take a snipe on Tyrande to work her into her composition? Because she can have so much synergy with a hero like Jaina and potentially someone like Diablo. But no, they say, we don't care what you get. We're going with safe, strong picks.
Yeah. So far, Tempo Storm's lineup does include a lot of CC. Stormbolt, the slow on the Thunderclap, Kerrigan with the Primal Grasp, Impale. Those are all very, very nice CC abilities, but the damage isn't quite there. Jaina is, of course, the nice piece that fits into that puzzle, and Zeveron was smart to make sure to take that option away from them. So Tempo Storm, I'm looking to see them fill out their damage profile. I think they're probably going to save their support to last. Zeveron has more than enough healing available on their team, so these next 2 picks will probably be damage output.
Yeah, it's tough to say. Now, we saw Malfurion in the last game, and I don't know if that paid off. That's actually one of the things I'd like to point out. Uther was not picked or banned in a game,
That's good.
And that is actually pretty crazy. Now, there is a high probability that Tempo Storm will want to run him here, and it just all depends on whether or not they want to prioritize that pick in this exact scenario. Do we save that? Do we risk not getting Uther, or are they confident that because of Tassadar and Brightwing, that he's not going to be picked up?
Yeah, this is smart. Okay, so they are going for the damage. We actually saw Tempo Storm run Zagara in one of the games against Cognitive, and it worked very well. They were saving the Maw for some point in the middle of the team fight after the initial pull, and stun. And it's actually almost timed out in such a way that Kerrigan would be able to reset her cooldowns on her combo, which is about 10 seconds or so. Right. So as long as the Maw is saved for about 5 or 6 seconds into the fight, the Maw gets thrown down into a couple targets. That guarantees Kerrigan 2 sets of pulls in the fight, which is a huge amount of CC control.
Whoa!
Okay, look at this. Zeveron grabbing the double warrior pick with a Nubarak and ETC.
Actually just insane. All right. We've been theory crafting about a noob quite a bit. We saw the power of the Beetle build just both in damage, in terms of soaking up the shots from those towers, pushing down lanes, but he is going to be very much a stun machine to assist Jaina in picking up quick kills, and this is a response to something like Kerrigan, where if Kerrigan gets hit by several stuns, she's in a horrible position.
Yeah, not the most mobile of heroes. She only really gets the sprint at 13 and the potential for Bolt of the Storm at 20. And she really, relies so much on making sure that she has the control over the fight. But Zeveron is really putting their cards on the table and saying, no, we've got the CCs here. It's going to be very interesting team fights between these two guys.
All right, guys. Well, while we wait for this final pick, I just want to clarify that Kael'thas is, in fact, banned from this entire tournament. He cannot be picked up, and it is, in fact, going to be Uther for that last pick. No cheeky stuff with Malfurion leaning towards the power of Divine Shield, but when you put Divine Shield on a hero like Kerrigan, who can go in there with the Maelstrom and just her entire kit, it can be quite scary.
Absolutely. So, what do you guys think of this composition? Please get on social media, use the hashtag WCA 2015. Does the double warrior composition work? Do you guys think it's going to be able to control what Tempo Storm has lined up? We're going to find out in game number 2 between Tempo Storm and Zeveron, where Zeveron is already up 1-0.
And if you guys are new to Heroes of the Storm, this map is called Dragonshire. The way Dragonshire works is it's a tri-lane map where there is a shrine in the top and bottom of the map, very much King of the Hill style. If you control both of those points, actually more like capture the points, I suppose. Yep. If you control both of the points, it enables the Dragonite in the center of the map, and if you capture that, it is a beast at sieging up the enemy fortifications.
Okay, it looks like as though we have game number 2 loading up, but I gotta say, this is match point for Zeveron. If you asked anyone who are your picks to go to the finals on June 1st, they would tell you Tempo Storm and probably Cloud9 Maelstrom.
Yep.
And to see Tempo Storm very much so on the back foot, we're in a new patch. We're talked so much about how they're a very adaptive team. They like to just jump into a new meta, figure things out, and throw crazy strategies at new teams. But we find that they are down 0-1. What is going to be the comeback strategy for Tempo Storm?
We'll find out in a bit. We got the game loaded up, ready to roll, and on the blue side, it will in fact be Tempo Storm. We have KO playing as Zagara, Soldier on Muradin, Glaurung playing Kerrigan, Dreadnought on Uther, and Arthalon rounding out the team on Vala.
On the right side of the map for the red team, that's going to be Zeveron. Fury is going to be on ETC. Cathan Luck on Tassadar. Equinox is going to be playing a Nubarak. Mad Timmy once again on Brightwing. And Faye will be playing Jaina.
There are 10 members in this match. All of them are hungry for that guaranteed $5,000. They want the 10 grand for that first place prize and the trip to China, but only one team can advance with a victory, and Tempo Storm is getting aggressive in enemy lines.
Absolutely, but Brightwing, I'm probably guessing that she picked up the scouting drone once again at level 1. Yes, she did. So an aggressive lineup potential for Tempo Storm. They can rotate very easily through the use of Kerrigan, Muradin, maybe Vala, whatever hero happens to be in that lane that they've left for Soak. So that is the scary potential in the placement of the scouting drones, I will have to say, has been very much on point by all of these teams so far. They're really starting to make use of this as a ward just to make sure that they can keep an eye on the enemy team to prevent these rotations and early kills.
Yes, but on the other side of the map, we have Zagara, and Zagara thrives in just having that presence on the map, having the vision from the Creep Tumors. So both teams have some form of map vision and some kind of just presence on the map to have awareness. Both teams, they really want to get those early kills if possible.
Jake, looks like we're seeing that full Beetle build once again for Equinox. Other talents that are interesting, of course, Uther. I see. Is that Reach at level 1? That's the extra range on his healing ability. Yes, Holy Light. And Flashlight, that's of course after he dies and goes into ghost form, able to provide quite a bit of healing. Sometimes that reach is needed. So a cool pickup, no, probably not grabbing Conjurer's Pursuit, which is what the normal pick would be.
Speak of a pickup, Zagara was eliminated in this top lane by Equinox and Fury. That is 2 warriors, and you wouldn't expect them to have a lot of damage output, but they have so many stuns and displacements that if you get hit by one, chances are you have 2 or 3 more on the way.
Yeah, and then with the Beetles, the extra damage output that was grabbed at level 1, that damage racks up really quickly, and with the improved AI on the Beetles, they can have a pretty good guarantee that the Beetles will stay around, not go to additional lanes or whatever. They can stay and focus onto that target that Anubrak is hitting.
Well, Zagara is going to pick up that shrine for a short period of time, but ETC is going to bully her off in the bottom lane. It looks like Templestorm is going for it onto Matt Timmy, but the poly is there initially. Is it enough to pick up the kill? No, he is able to escape. Very clutch polymorph. Yeah,
unfortunately the stuns weren't quite lined up. The Impale didn't quite hit Matt Timmy. That might have been the difference between him dying or not. And he doesn't have the cleanse up until now. And once again, we see the promote picked up and KO caught out of position. Fury is able to power slide through and get the knockback so that they provide the kill. Really nice play from Zeveron.
Yeah, this rotation, this aggressive style with both ETC and Anubrak seems to be working out so far. 2 kills to none at this point in time. Things are looking good for them in the start of the game, but Kubi, look at those level 4 talents. We have Promote once again on Brightwing just to provide that presence. In ETC, he's sticking towards the power slide.
Yeah, that's a huge area of stun that is unstoppable for ETC to move through with the extra range on that power slide. And the double promote is picked up once again. Tassadar and Brightwing will have a huge amount of lane presence to push forward. You can see that golden ring that is flying around those warrior minions in the front. They have a huge more amount of HP for 30 seconds. That provides quite a bit more push.
Looks like they're going to attempt to get a kill here on Chthon but no, decide that because of Dimensional Warp, he is a little bit too risky to try to throw our cooldowns on. He will be able to back up, but looking at the talents, Kerrigan has invested in the Envenom. But Templestorm, they haven't been able to make anything happen. Do you think it's crucial for them to get early kills in this game, or is Kerrigan fine either way?
Kerrigan is a hero that as long as you have the amount of control, late game she is good, but if she's running Maelstrom and she doesn't quite have that control in the fight, she does tend to scale back compared to the other heroes. And there it is, Glaurung actually getting caught out of position, not able to pick up any kills in return. So the top control will be relinquished to Zeveron because of that kill.
Yeah, 3-0 in terms of kills at this point in time. Impressive stuff by Zeveron, and that allows them to hit level 7 first. Cleanse has been picked up by Brightwing, and this is really going to make it hard for Kerrigan to secure those combos.
But on the other side, Uther, I'm sure, is also going to grab Cleanse. There it is, really wanting to make sure that they have control to remove those CCs, and that provides CC immunity for an entire second after it is cast as well. Both of these teams very CC heavy. Looks as though Templestorm was looking to make a rotation to try to punish Matt Timmy in the bottom lane.
But that scouting drone was in the exact position it needed to be to reveal their positions, and as soon as he got eyes on, he was out of there in a jiffy. But Chthon is able to use that Dimensional Warp, escape from the combo of Kerrigan, and live to see another day.
Yeah, with the Cleanse on Brightwing, the Dimensional Shift on Tassadar, and just the general tankiness and survivability of ETC and Anubrak, it is going to be difficult to pick up kills on any of the members of Zeveron. Really the only exception to that being Jaina. And look at the positioning. She's staying very far back.
Oh, Kerrigan dives forward to try to pick up a kill, but the damage is not quite enough. ETC does back out, and Soldier on Muradin and forced to use Dwarf Toss to get to safety. We have a huge rotation on both sides, but the big benefit right now is the fact that Dreadnought is alone in the bottom lane soaking that experience. That will really help them catch up towards level 10.
Yeah, I think the call for Matt Timmy to rotate up using that phase shift was they were expecting a much larger fight, Zeveron. And it just didn't end up panning out. So I guess to the advantage of Templestorm, this allows them to catch up an experience like you were mentioning, and also to take back the shrine potentially.
Yes, they are actually picking up some bruisers here for a bit of control on the map, but they need to make sure that they're able to deny this in time. Vala currently sitting here on the top temple will force that off, and everything has pretty much normalized, but level 10 is approaching rapidly.
Now, I have to say, we were talking a little bit before about Kerrigan. She is a hero that when she gets like level 13 and up, does sort of lose that scaling compared to other heroes. So I would have absolutely expected to see a bit more kills from Templestorm, but it just goes to show you that Zeveron is really respecting the potential that Tempo Storm has to make these rotations and are playing very safe, especially Faye. She's, every time I'm looking over, unless there's a huge engagement, she is back behind the wall because they cannot afford to lose any kills.
That's how you have to play with this much on the line, even glowering Hearthing back to base to make sure he has maximum mana for these potential fights that could happen at level 10. We see 10 on the side of Zeveron, and let's just take a look at those heroics.
Okay, we have the Archon, the Blink Heal, Water Elemental for Jaina, the Locust for Nubrak once again, and ETC still hasn't picked. Please tell me it's the Mosh Pit. Come on, Mosh Pit. Fury, don't let me down.
But on the other half, we do have those heroics picked up as well. We do have the Divine Shield out of Uther. This can make Kerrigan very scary in the front line. The Maw for Zagara, Strafe picked up by Vala, and we have Avatar for Muradin.
Okay, so there is, with this Divine Shield especially, a lot of potential for Kerrigan to get in there and support it. Make sure that she can get a lot of the shields off. The Locust Swarm has been popped, and this actually looks to be a very nice start to a fight for Tempo Storm.
We have Cathalma just barely staying alive. The Blink Heal from Brightwing just keeping him topped off at the mess mode. And that is a massive dance. 4 out of 5 members picked up in that. Fury with the plays. The Maw only connects with Jaina, and this is looking horrible for Tempo Storm. They have to retreat.
Okay, only one hero was taken out for Tempo Storm. I got to say the rotation was really nice from Equinox. He saw that there was a very huge amount of heroes. 4 were caught in that mosh pit, but you know there weren't heroes quite nearby to make sure to capitalize. ETC's HP was dropping quite low. Equinox was able to rotate in from the top side just to provide enough CC to allow ETC to escape. So that is a 4-kill-to-nothing advantage so far in this game for Zeveron.
Yes, but we do have the Dragon Knight being picked up finally. Nicely done. ETC rotated to the top of the map. Fury is making plays, securing this Dragon Knight, but Kerrigan pulls it in with the Primal Grasp, trying to apply as much damage as possible because this Dragon Knight is a big threat to your structures.
Absolutely, will likely to be rotating around, just trying to collect as much experience lead as they can. They want to hit level 13, a good level ahead of Tempo Storm if they can. That will give them a huge timing window with that talent tier advantage to push and take extra structures, perhaps set themselves up to take further Dragon Knights, etc.
Yes, and Equinox is just laying out that damage. He's just taking turret out after turret to make sure they get that experience towards level 13. If they can have that talent advantage, they can just set up some great opportunities. But Tempo is being sure to soak the best they can across the map.
Yeah, it looks as though this Dragon probably won't be able to get much more advantage out of it. We see Equinox dropping the Dragon so that they can back up and take these mercenary camps. The only one, or excuse me, the only 2 that are available on the map are these Bruisers in the upper right, and it looks to be the Giants in the lower left. Excuse me, once again, there's one in the bottom lane as well, and that might actually be the next contention point between these 2 teams because there is no Shrine spawning for another at least a minute and a half, and unless they see kills that can be picked up very early, I would expect one of the 2 teams to rotate to the bottom to take the Bruisers.
Arthalon senses danger. Faye, Equinox, and Curse Fury are all lying in wait to try to pick up a kill, but Arthalon will back up the moment he sees them push forward.
Absolutely, Equinox. I mean, that power slide or the impale could come down at any second, and actually looks as though they're just realizing, okay, as soon as they see the ping from the bottom lane, that the Bruisers have been taken. Zeveron looking to do some counter pressure in the top lane and take out this fort.
Yes, but Tempo Storm is happy to push in. They have these Bruisers and Giants right now, and they're pushing against the promoted minions of Zeveron. But Zeveron realizes that the presence is in the bottom lane, so they're going to pick up aggressive Bruisers here of Tempo Storms, which are just ripe for the picking.
Absolutely. Now, Bruisers, I have to say, aren't as good at solo pushing compared to Giants. Giants are able to outrange the turrets, and if left uncontested, can do a huge amount of damage. It's very likely that this Bruisers will only require 1 hero at the most to go back to take it back. But actually, that's a huge mosh pit, and we're seeing 2 members. The Divine Shield is enough to keep KO out, but unfortunately, Kerrigan being caught in that is bursted down. That is a really nice way for Zeveron to start a team fight.
Fury just makes this new ETC look terrifying. He cues in, and it is lights out if he can hit you with that mosh pit. Huge plays being made by him in this game so far. That is going to be the second fort to fall for Tempo Storm.
Absolutely, and once again, Zeveron into this mid-game find themselves with a very, very solid advantage. No forts have been taken on their side of the map. They've taken now this middle fort and the top fort, and it looks as though they're setting themselves up to take an additional Dragon Knight.
Yes, the Dragon Knight is ready to roll, and Equinox will once again hop inside to pilot it. Right now, Matt Timmy is running from Soldier, but I don't think he's going to be able to finish off that kill.
Very likely the advantage will be 16 to probably 15 when this Dragon Knight is all said and done. that, again, is another timing window that Zeveron can take, they can capitalize on to even push more structure damage forward. I gotta say that the timings that they've been picking up these Dragon Knights have been very opportunistic on their side.
And they are very close to 16 at this point in time. When they have the talent advantage, this will look even worse for Tempo, doing their best to force them back, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. Equinox is in there in the Dragon Knight, taking down one turret, slows down the Dragon Breath to try to take out another, but it will survive for a bit longer.
Tempo Storm really needs to take a fight on their terms. They have a lot of tools at their disposal. Through Muradin stuns, you can throw Kerrigan in there with the Maelstrom, the Divine Shield. That is a very scary just combination of heroics and abilities to deal with. But it just seems like most of the fights, Zeveron have been the ones to initiate, and they just set up like either a huge mosh pit that leads to many members of Tempo Storm dying. So we need to see Tempo Storm really start to take control of the positioning in these fights.
And I like what they're doing right now. They throw Zagara to the top lane. They realize that Dragon Knight is just about out of juice, and they're just trying to soak to catch up to 16. They're almost 2 levels down at this point in time, and because of that talent advantage, we see them getting very aggressive in the jungle, taking another aggressive camp. They are painting the map red, Kubi.
Jake, at level 16, Fury has picked up, I believe that is the amplifier, the encore. It leaves down a spot on the ground, which actually is taken up by an amp, and it will, after 2 seconds, put another pulse of the knockback out, which is a really interesting space control ability that ETC now has with this new patch. Didn't end up picking up the Echo Pedal, which was moved to level 16, which previously what we saw a lot of ETCs taking, and now ETC seems to be shifting from the split pushing, initiating with stage dive roll, to a heavy CC monster in these team fights.
Yeah, it's going to be quite scary to see the power of that for the first time in a competitive match. I'm excited to see it unfold, but Tempo Storm has hit level 16. We do have the Benediction, the Blood for Blood Brute expansion that allows you to summon 2 Hydralisks at once, and they're moving in with that level 16. Going forward, Primalgrass only connects with the one target, and the Maw picks up both the tanks, but they can't commit past this wall. Water Elemental is summoned over the wall, and the stun is there, but the heals from Brightwing seem to be enough to keep Equinox alive. There goes out the shield from Tassadar, and it's just trades on both sides. 2 for 1 in favor of Zeveron, and they are continuing to push forward. Soldier is in trouble.
I think once the Maw went down, that should have been a full retreat from Tempo Storm. They realized they had both of the tanks. They were caught in there. There was no way they were going to be able to burst it down with Kerrigan having already used their combo, etc. So once that was sorted out, I think that they probably should have backed up and conceded that position. They hadn't spent a huge amount of resources yet, but as soon as that Maw went up, they tried to chase down Anubarak. They weren't able to get him as he burrow charged back. And this provided a huge opportunity for Fury to dash forward and catch a 3-person Maw. This allowed for more burst down. Yes, Anubarak ended up dying, but once again, Kerrigan and Vol, the squishy targets that were caught in that mosh pit, were taken out.
And this allows for Zeveron to grab the 3rd Dragon Knight in a row. This is a big deal. The later the game gets, the more powerful these Dragon Knights become. And Tempo Storm, they have already taken so much damage to these back structures.
Absolutely, but level 16 has been hit for Tempo Storm. This allows them to get back on somewhat even footing. We see that double Blood for Blood. That's a lot more damage output for the Mutalisks that have probably been picked up by Zagara. Yes, I see that. And also more survivability in the form of that stone form for Muradin.
All right, well, they're doing their best to push this back, but Thunlock is being very safe with this Dragon Knight, stepping forward, using that Dragon Breath, and backing up. Right now, Brightwing in the top lane is being aggressed heavily by Glaurung, but does he have enough? The stun comes out from Muradin, and the Ice Block trying to buy some time. This is a distraction tactic. They do pick up the kill, but the Dragon Knight goes in for this keep with the rest of the team.
A smart rotation, but look, there is a flank on the backside. Dreadnought and Soldier, a heavy amount of CCs available. This might be the overstep that Tempo Storm was looking for to try to capitalize. That's a 2nd hero down. Brightwing and ETC are out. This is what Tempo Storm needs to come back into this game.
They did lose a keep, however, but picking up 3 kills is going to give them not only a huge chunk of experience putting them back in, but presence on the map. They're picking up these giants, and they're going to start to get aggressive.
Not only were they able to catch Zeveron a little bit out of position, they spent 0 heroics in the process. Usually when a big fight like that has happened, some of the longer cooldown heroics, such as Maelstrom, they're on cooldown, so that's, resets position. Yes, they're able to take positional advantage, but they can still look to take even further fights at this point. And look at this, they take the wall down. This is the Tempo Storm we used to know and love They take these very aggressive calls. They realize they have this window of opportunity, and they're going in to take the bottom key.
Oh my goodness. Just like that, they went from not having a single fort down to eliminating the entire bottom lane. This makes Zeveron vulnerable in that regard. They had a safety barrier, but if there is a convincing team wipe on either side, one of these teams could attempt to end the game.
Absolutely, and they have evened the experience up. Both teams just inches away from hitting those Storm talents at level 20. A huge power spike. We could see things like Storm Shield, the Tour Bus, that's even more mobility, the Power Slide reset during Mosh Pit, and he can move while he's casting Mosh Pit. That is a new ability to ETC in this most recent patch. Look at the mobility that was picked up for Tempo Storm. We see the redemption on Uther. He can revive after going into his Ghost form with half HP, and 3 Bolts of the Storms.
3 Bolt of the Storms is huge for that mobility, but on the other half of the map, we do have the Twilight Archon for Tassadar, the Storm Shield for Brightwing to give them sustainability. We have Bolt on Jaina, but Kubi,
yes.
What is that?
That is the Tour Bus. So exciting. Just look for the Mosh Pit to move around during the fight, and honestly, it is something that is very difficult to dodge. I've noticed that in a lot of the games that I've been playing on this new patch, a crazy ability, and we even saw Fury being able to showcase it a little bit in his games yesterday. I'm really excited to see its impact, but with that huge mobility, with the triple Bolt of the Storm that Tempo Storm has picked up, seems to be slightly a counterplay to that talent pickup.
Well, we can see both teams are convening on the bottom half of the map, but look at Fury. He has that tour bus that allows him to, again, set up crazy mosh pits, and he is just lying in wait for that opportunity. The stun comes up from Kerrigan. The combo does not do anything significant, but if they are clumped up, that's when Fury will strike.
Yes, a lot of posturing. I wonder if he's actually going to be able to bait out some of the Bolts of the Storm just by power sliding in. Let's see if the bolts are casted. There's one. Okay, see, he doesn't even need to cast the Mosh Pit in order to bait those out. So this provides him a little bit better opportunity. Once that power slides off cooldown, they might be able to go in for this fight.
And they are doing just that. The Maw only catches the Water Elemental. Very unfortunate. The Storm Bolt hitting Equinox and Fury, but that is not what you want to do. You want to eliminate an enemy hero, and both teams are just separating. Tempo Storm gonna tap those wells. They have to get back out there because the shrines are available. We already have control on the bottom shrine for Zeveron. If they get the top shrine, Tempo Storm is going to be in a very tough spot defending that Dragon Knight.
Yes, this is almost a 20-minute Dragon Knight that could do a huge amount of damage to the core. If they lose a single hero in the process, that could be devastating for Tempo Storm. They are on the back foot, but they realize they need to take some amount of map control to contest this Dragon pickup.
Almost caught them out of position there. A good attempt by Zeveron, but it cost them nothing to do that. Tempo Storm is now putting this pressure on this bottom lane. Brightwing is rotating up to the top. She has global presence, and this is something they can abuse right now. They can send her up there to grab this, but if she is caught out of position by Kerrigan, something big could happen. They could try to pick up that kill.
Absolutely, and she could be considered one of the more squishy targets. Of course, she does have the Ice Block, which might buy the rest of Zeveron enough time to get up to rotate, and they're just rotating around looking for the right opportunity. Right now, they're just, playing musical shrines, as we like to call it, and of course, you need to occupy both of those shrines to be able to pick up the Dragon Knight.
Every single moment here, every decision made could end the game. It's a very tense situation where both teams are respecting each other to an immense extent.
Yes, I have a feeling that the next team fight is absolutely going to decide the game. Like you mentioned, the door has been opened for either team. The keeps, one keep down on either side. That's all that needs to be taken for the core to be attacked. And again, a huge team fight for one team or the other could absolutely end the game.
Brightwing is making her way up to that top lane to deny this Dragon Knight. She will be there in time, so there will be no Dragon Knight in favor of Tempo Storm right here, but they could continue to abuse this if possible.
This doesn't really put one team or the other at an advantage. Again, it comes down to them trying to outposition one or the other, but hold on in the top lane. It looks as though Brightwing has been caught. None of the team members of Zeveron are going to be nearby. She's going to have to rely on the cleanse, and she does get picked off. This might be the opportunity for Tempo Storm to run in and try to take an advantage to get that Dragon Knight.
Kubi, this is huge. Mad Timmy getting caught out of position like that is the last thing you want to have happen. Like I said, he was using that global presence he has as to his advantage, but Tempo Storm read his movement. movements and picked him off in that situation. Kerrigan right now is sitting on the bottom shrine. This will enable the Dragonite for a brief period of time, but no, Jaina went up to the top to deny right now. Faye needs to be very careful.
That is a scary position with Arthalon nearby, but they could use this as a bait. Curse Fairy is able to get the stun and is not going to try to follow that up with a mosh pit. They for sure would have been able to kill, but that's a scary, especially with this Dragonite being taken on, and actually Vala with the rotation from Faye. Okay, so that is 60 seconds for one of their main damage dealers to get away. Furry Fury, is he going to be able to get out of there in time to save Faye? The sprint is popped, and it looks as though she will be able to retreat, but hold on in the bottom lane.
Kubi, this is actually insane. Right now, it's all about Murden buying time, keeping Jaina in ETC away from this core, because this is a 22-minute Dragonite. KO is doing his best to lay down as much damage as possible. We see Kerrigan using the Bolt of the Storm over the lane, the heals and the Divine Shield coming out from Dreadnought. They are doing their best to eliminate this core, and I think they're going to do it. It's down to just 38%. The Dragonite sitting on 1% HP. It does fall. Kubi, I can't handle this. It is so very close.
KO actually taking a huge amount of damage. The core is down to 5%. Are they going to be able to pick up this final kill? Soldier is the only one left alive, down to 5%. They actually healed it back up. No, that's it. They threw the game.
God.
This is going to be the opportunity for Tempo Storm to march across the map and finish it out. This is going to be a 2-0 advantage in the huge upset for Zeveron.
4% the core is left. Even the redemption on Uther wasn't enough to end the game. Huge plays by Zeveron. They are in fact marching, but look at this. Arthalon is going to try to sneak through the bottom. See if she can make something happen, but I don't think it's going to be enough, Kubi, because Zeveron is already there.
That's the exact play that Mad Timmy is looking to try to intercept. The polymorph should be enough to buy enough time for Zeveron to make this finish. Yes, the silence is there. Arthalon making the mad dash to go in, but the shields have recharged. I don't know if he's going to be able to do enough damage in time. Look, the shields are almost down. 40% on the core.
Oh my God!
Zeveron is not going to be able to take this game. Tempo Storm bringing it to game 3.
I cannot believe it, Kubi. The Bolt of the Storm was just enough for him to pick up that play. Arthalon was down to almost no health remaining. My mind is blown. My mind is absolutely blown right now.
Play of the century for Heroes of the Storm. I haven't seen anything crazier than that. Arthalon just knew that was the only play they could make, but just the fact that it was just by the skin of their teeth. How much HP did the core have at the end of that game?
I don't know. I don't have words.
My heart.
Wow.
I cannot handle this.
I can't even talk.
We have to go to commercial break. I can't handle this. That's going to be it. We'll be back in just a few, guys, for game number 3.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to WCA America 2015. I am Solid Jake Kalinske, joined by Corey Kubi-Hover, and we just saw an incredible game number 2.
My heart is still, we've been on break for like 4 minutes, and my heart rate is still super, super high right now. I can't believe that they were able to finish that off with Vala. Arthlon just dashing forward, using the Bolt of the Storm, even through the Polymorph to get enough damage onto the core. Absolute insanity. I thought the game was over for sure. And then we saw the Vala there. They even had the counterplay for it.
Kubi, I'm just going to go out and say it. That is the most epic finish we have seen to date. We had that crazy game on Mines months ago, but this takes the cake. I mean, it was just so very clutch. Any little difference, if Vala had started moving a second later, it was over for Tempo Storm, and it would have been a 2-0 for Zeveron, but that is not the case. We're going to game number 3.
And the crazy thing about it is the route that Arthlon took to go through, like, he had to hope that he was going to dodge all the members of Zeveron on the way over.
Right. And he did it, and everything from the bolt to the tumble forward to casting the Q and the hungering arrow and the multi-shot was just barely enough to end the game.
That was absolutely epic. Truly a pleasure to watch that, but I think we might actually have a game number 3 set up for you guys. This is the decider match. Winner of this goes on to the live LAN here in Burbank, California on June 1st to play against the other side of the bracket winner. So a lot is on the line for these two teams.
Well, we're just getting the players into the lobby, making sure that we are good to go, and hopefully everything will sort itself out very shortly so we can start the draft. But Kubi, let's see what the map is. The map is, in fact, going to be Blackheart's Bay. What do you think we'll see happen here today?
I have to absolutely think that the Vikings will be a factor in this match. It is a very large map and probably one of the first maps that we have seen the Vikings picked up on. Whichever team ends up picking this up, they can make full use of this because, I'm going to be honest with you, once you pull that early lead, the Vikings can absolutely help you to continue to soak and roam around the map, continuing to collect the objectives, the coins that can be found at all of the mercenary camps. When you turn the coins into the middle of the map to Blackheart, he is able to bombard your enemy's structures to deal structural damage. Huge plays if you can continue to get those turn-ins time and time again, and it forces a lot of crazy counterplay to the team that's behind, but we've seen some really epic games on this map.
We certainly have, and guys, a few things to take into consideration. All of the maps were decided at the start of this match, so this is not like a counter pick or anything of that nature. This has been a predetermined match. And Tempo Storm, they are respecting the power of Lost Vikings, removing them with Zeveron, removing Illidan. Do you think Tempo Storm should spend their pick on Sylvanas here?
That's there's so many heroes I can think of at this point in time that they should go for. I mean, Sylvanas seems strong. We've seen Uther make a lot of plays being picked up very early. Tempo Storm themselves have shown the propensity for grabbing Muradin. They really like that hero as well. Kerrigan was first pick, so I'm honest, I don't know. Well, I mean, after that last game, what do you do? Like, you're riding this huge amount of momentum. Zeveron, at this point, they have to be like heartbroken that game did not end up in their favor.
Yeah, they had everything they needed to end that game, and Tempo Storm has seen them really lean towards those early picks on Brightwing. We know Dreadnought has a phenomenal Brightwing, and they opt to deny that, but that allows Zeveron to go for those big damage dealers. Jaina and Sylvanas, the two new heroes, excluding Kilfoss, who is banned from this tournament.
Absolutely, and Sylvanas seemed to be the problem child in game number 1. Tempo Storm with the respect ban on Sylvanas in game 2. So now we're probably going to see Sylvanas on, Faye will be playing Sylvanas probably once again, so that's a problem that Tempo Storm has to deal with in respect because the silencers were very much on point.
Yep.
But this pickup for Brightwing first is kind of like a respect play for Mad Timmy as well. So Zeveron, they can take solace in the fact that they have really put Tempo Storm on the back foot with some of these hero picks and plays.
All right, so let's look at the situation. We have Brightwing being stolen from Mad Timmy, and that will likely make Mad Timmy lean towards Uther. One thing that Tempo Storm has to consider is the fact that they could run Kerrigan Uther, and that's something that got a lot of work done for them in game number 2. Do you think it's worth kind of spending those hero picks on that, or stick to what they know, pick up Muradin and a big damage dealer like Vala?
I think Muradin has been working out pretty well for them, although I will say that that double warrior composition was quite scary. from Zeveron in that last game, and it seemed like the map control, everything was all about Zeveron that entire game. So yes, Tempo Storm was able to make the clutch plays, and we've been talking about this throughout the series. Tempo Storm, they are no slouches in the late game. Past level 20, they know how to make the clutch decisions, and that was it right there. So when it comes down to making control of the early game, I mean, they can. We see the Kerrigan pick up once again. So are they going to try to push with this with Uther? It seemed to work out for some of the fights, but I gotta say they need to look to try to initiate the fights on their side more often than not.
Tempo Storm is a team that brought something into our meta, if I'm not mistaken, known as double support. It has since kind of fallen out of favor, but if there is a situation in which I could see it working, it is here. Picking up Uther almost as your warrior with a very defensive style, I think could actually work out in this situation, and it's a big deny pickup because you're removing the only other cleanse that exists in the game from the table when you already have Polymorph and Kerrigan. Right,
yeah, that's a very good point, and especially with the nerf to the healing ward, some of the other picks for supports are starting to not look so good. They don't end up going with this play. Zeveron, thinking that might have been a possibility, they're probably going to scoop up Uther in this next wave.
Yes, I would really expect to see Fury once again playing ETC. His play has been phenomenal, and a pickup for Uther on Matt Timmy. Now, Matt Timmy is actually very seasoned on several heroes, whether it be Rhaegar or something of the like, but they're going for that double warrior once again.
Okay, so this is kind of a risk. They are really saying, okay, we expect the Tempo Storm won't grab one. Well, all right. Actually, I'm gonna back away from my point. I was gonna say it would be scary if Tempo Storm did pick up Uther, but I think Malfurion actually fits fairly well into the composition. Again, he has that huge amount of AoE heal. Over time, you have two very large health pool heroes with the double warrior composition. I think either of those supports could work. I'm okay with them leaving their support pick to the end.
Yeah, if they even go for one. They already do have Brightwing, so that's definitely up in the air. Whether
no, I mean Zeveron.
Oh, Zeveron. I see what you're saying. Okay, so on the side of Tempo, they are going to go for damage picking up Vala. They're down to their final 55 seconds, 55 seconds of time to decide, and that will give them potentially the second support or something like Tyrande, middle-of-the-road Tassadar. They're still both on the table.
Absolutely. Now, they don't have the hugest amount of burst damage, and if they're looking to try to make that kind of play in the early game to get that lead, I'd like to see them grab something that is a little bit more bursty. I mean, you know, Tyrande might actually fit pretty well into this spot. What do you think, Jake?
I like the Tyrande pickup personally, especially when you just consider Kerrigan plus Tyrande, the Hunter's Mark, Lunar Flare, with the Primal Grasp and the Impale. Very scary to be on the receiving end of that, but they have so many responses when it comes to a Nubarak and ETC to stop those kind of combos from happening.
Yep. The Zagara, okay, all right. I was going to say the Zagara was something we also saw in that last game, a potential spot there, but it is going to be the Tyrande. They want to make sure they have that extra follow-up lockdown, and really the Hunter's Mark is going to be the big part of that combination. And we see time and time again, level 1, the Hunter's Mark cooldown picked up.
Yep.
There's the Uther to round this out. It could have been Uther or Malfurion. I think either of those would have fit very well. And honestly, there are opportunities where you're going to want to try to shield Jaina. If they decide to go for a Divine Shield, they have a lot of CCs as well, so they could run either of these heroics. If it's going to be Divine Shield, this might actually allow a Nubarak to be the one to initiate, to dive in. If he knows that he has the safety of that Divine Shield, it could provide a lot of opportunities, especially with that Locust Swarm that we've been seeing the Nubaraks run.
All right, guys, well, those are the drafts. Let us know who you think is going to win this game number 3 between Tempo Storm and
Zeveron.
Zeveron, yes. We have so many matches
just so
lined
flustered
up.
after that
Use
first
the
game.
hashtag WCA 2015, and we're going to get this game started in just a few minutes.
Okay, so we are talking about Blackheart's Bay. Once again, I have to say that this is a very, very large map, and the pacing of the map is going to be quite different than what we have seen previously. Very likely the teams are going to try to posture to take the Watchtower in the top side of the map. Unless they're going for some kind of counterplay, we'll probably see one of the heroes run down the bottom lane to try to continue to get that soak. But about 50 seconds into the match, we will see the chest spawn in the upper center of the map and the lower center of the map, and that will be a heavy contention point and very likely the spot for an early team fight.
Yeah, the map is Blackheart's, like you mentioned, and it can really spiral out of control. controlling the coins is crucial, but having a hero like Kerrigan can help you pick off kills. If the enemy hero happens to be holding coins, when you pick off those kills, guess what? You steal the coins from them, netting you an advantage. So a lot of the game can come down to just controlling that turn-in, but at the same time, you want to be across the map, picking up those mercenary camps, picking up those bruisers, and Kubi, I think the game is ready to roll.
Yes, let's hop into game number 3 between Zeveron and Tempo Storm. This is it, the decider match. Winner of this moves on to the LAN here at Burbank at the end of the month, June 1st.
And on the blue side, we do have Zeveron tying it up at 1-1. We have Equinox playing as Anubarak, Mad Timmy on Uther, Chthonluck playing Sylvanas, Faye on Jaina, and Fury will be on ETC once again.
Over on the right side with a crazy comeback at the end of game number 2. KO is going to be on Vala, Glaurung on Kerrigan, Soldier is going to be playing Muradin, Arthlon on Tyrande. Rounding it out for Tempo Storm in the bottom lane is Dreadnought.
All right, well, we do have this watchtower. It is the point of contention when the game begins, and that's why we have so many heroes present here. But Dreadnought on Brightwing is sitting in the bottom lane. If he was absolutely necessary, he could phase shift up to the top if needed.
For sure. I don't expect that to happen, especially considering what you're going to be giving up. One wave of experience is almost equal to a hero kill, so they really want to make sure that they're representing the bottom lane. And it was interesting to see that Zeveron had the hero advantage to take control of this watchtower very early, but they didn't know that Brightwing was in the bottom lane, so it was a risk. They didn't want to dive in, and throwing this team fight early is usually not a huge deal on a lot of the maps, but like I mentioned, there are the chests, and if you have heroes that are responding and still trying to flood back into the fight, you can lose control of these early chests, which can spiral out of control for turning in doubloons.
It certainly can. We see Sylvanas is bullying the bottom chest pretty well, but Glaurung dives forward and gets body blocked by the burrow charge of Anubarak, and that's not going to be enough for them to pick up a kill. Only Kerrigan fell, and we do see that ETC was able to back up on the side of Zeveron.
In the bottom lane, though, we have Sylvanas and Dreadnought, Chthonluck as well, duking it out to try to control these the bottom chest. And actually, the burrow charge is going to be enough. Is Dreadnought going to be falling here? Actually, no. Hold on a second. Sylvanas is the one taken out. This will allow actually a fairly even split between the coins, 5 and 5.
Yeah, we can actually just see that the owl out of Tyrande just barely clipping at the end, and the aggression has not ended. We have Glaurung coming in with Muradin to pick up the kill onto Jaina. A very quick start to this game. 5 coins on each side, but we see it is 2 kills to 1 in favor of Tempo Storm.
All right, now that we have a minute, things have calmed down a little bit. Let's take a look at some of these talents that have been picked up at level 1. Got to mention it again just because the Warriors have changed a little bit. ETC, once again, probably going to be building into this full Power Slide build level 1. That is the 25% increase on the range on Power Slide, and it's probably going to be a full Beetle build. Huge amounts of sustain and damage output for Anubarak.
But those level 4 talents are being picked up on the side of Tempo Storm, and guess what, Kubi? They are adapting to what Zeveron has invented in this new meta, picking up the promote on Brightwing.
Yes, absolutely, and it's crazy too because the space between the lanes of mid and bottom is huge, so they're going to probably have to make sure that they have a heavy amount of representation. This will allow Brightwing to outpush probably Sylvanas, which is a crazy thing to think about, and actually Mad Timmy on Uther gets caught by the Primal Grasp and Impale from Glaurung.
Beautifully done, just waiting until the last possible moment to use a Primal Grasp, securing that kill. Nice plays done there, but this is actually quite nice. They have Sylvanas, and Sylvanas can shut those minions off. So in a lot of ways, that will negate the talent pickup of Promote when Sylvanas is in the same lane as Brightwing.
Actually, another thing that's interesting, we do see those giants in the bottom lane. I think that's Anubarak that ended up going over to pick that up. So not only is he a high damage output, high sustain warrior in the middle of these fights, but is also able to jungle really well, which is important on this map in particular.
Yeah, when you think about those beetles, they can soak up the damage from those golems that we talked about, the giants throwing their boulders. But as KO rotates down to the bottom lane to clean up these giants, that frees Brightwing up to push down the middle. And with the promotes in the middle lane, Sylvanas is not present.
So with this early set of kills that have gone the way of Tempo Storm, is it fair to say that maybe Zeveron is a little rattled from that last game.
It's entirely possible, and you lost a few comfort picks like Brightwing being stolen, but ETC is proving to be formidable going forward. The shields come out on Dreadnought, and the Primal Grasp is huge, connecting with 3 targets. I don't know if it's going to line up with a kill, but Fury is getting quite low, and the last shot of Tyrande will pick up that kill, and Dreadnought was able to survive as a result.
Counterplay was huge from Glaurung. That pole hitting 3 targets was absolutely what allowed Brightwing to escape and stay alive, and once again the kills are so much in favor of Tempo Storm right now. The map control is there, and if Zeveron doesn't make a hasty play or something, they got to come up with something that is really clever to try to catch Tempo Storm off guard, because they could run away with this.
Yeah, this looks like a mirror of the last game. Before, we had Zeveron getting the early aggression at the start of the game and just pushing down with those early level leads. But right now, Tempo Storm is sitting 1.5 levels ahead, and we can see just now is Zeveron getting those level 7 talents with Cleanse on Uther.
Absolutely. We actually have the Cleanse on the other side as well. Seems to be a common trend for a lot of the teams. They want to make sure they have control, especially with Kerrigan, Tyrande, so prevalent in the meta. It seems to make a lot of sense, and we'll see a lot of clutch plays, I'm sure, with the Cleanse. There it is right there. Not actually able to sustain him through that impale from a Nubarak, but is still able to get out.
Yep. Right, and Dreadnought will be just fine in this situation, but the turn-in has been done by Zeveron, so that gives him the siege on the middle lane, but I'm not sure that they've done enough damage to take out that fort that Tempo Storm was able to do.
And the race for level 10 is on Tempo Storm. Almost a level and a half lead up to that point, and that will allow them a huge amount of control with those heroics. That is probably the largest power spike that we see in Heroes of the Storm. And look what they're doing. They know they're going to get this level advantage by the time they're possibly going to get contested for this golem. They're going to go for it.
This is an incredibly aggressive play, but it's calculated. They know that there were several members in the bottom lane for Zeveron, and they're like, you know what, this is an opportunity. Let's do it. They'll hit 10 with this, and they can push forward with this Grave Golem.
So here's a scary thing to propose for Zeveron at the very least. They had control of the early game, like you mentioned. Even up through the mid and start of the late game, they had control over Tempo Storm. But now Tempo Storm is the one that has control, and we've already talked about how strong Tempo Storm is in the late game. Do you think this bodes really poorly for Zeveron? Do you think they're going to have to come up with something crazy? I mean, obviously they are going to, but what's that plan going to be?
I don't think they're too far behind to the extent where they have to make something miraculous happen, and Fury has been doing wonders with ETC. When it comes to landing a 5-man mosh pit, we've already seen he is capable of doing that. That's all it takes to take a convincing win in a team fight, and if you wipe the opposing side, that will very much even the game out, if not put you ahead.
I like the play from Zeveron in the bottom lane. They realize that this golem is likely going to be assisted and pushed, trying to get the most out of it for Tempo Storm. So Zeveron pushes down. Actually, they're not quite going to be able to finish off this keep. No matter. They are able to hit level 10. Even out those levels, they get the heroics. We actually see the Divine Storm this time. Mosh Pit, the Locust Swarm, just to make sure they get the extra sustain, the Water Elemental, and of course the Silence.
And on the other half for Tempo, we do have Starfall, Blinkkill, Avatar, Maelstrom, and Strife. Pretty standard stuff, but the synergy with all of those is just a lot of lockdown and a lot of area of effect. If you're caught in the mess of abilities they have, it's not going to feel good.
Okay, both the teams sitting on about 11 coins, just about enough for either side to get a full turn-in. Looks as though Zeveron is going to take the initiative and try to turn those coins in.
Yeah, Brightwing is face shifting in. This means Tempo Storm is here to fight, and Glaurung, sitting on 7 coins, got in a bit of an aggressive posture. They're looking for Faye. The Beetle going down is on the blue side, not going to reveal anything in terms of Faye's location. If Glaurung finds Faye out of position, he will try to go for that kill.
Yeah, you can see he's hunting for this. He's just looking if he can get that extra bit of vision over the wall, he will make that dive.
And Dreadnought is actually backing out. He used the phase shift to go up. It's a quite lengthy cooldown, so he's now rotating back up into the fight, using that Blinkkill to get back in and make sure they are there to deny the turn-in if possible, but 4 coins have already been turned in.
Look at the posturing between these two teams, the very slight spacing advantages. In particular, Faye on Jaina was just sort of rotating around the bottom side, looking for that opportunity to go in. It looks as though Zeveron will concede this position and the turn-in to Tempo Storm.
Yeah, that is 11 coins. 1 more coin is required, and that's why they're working on these pirates on the right side. We'll see Arfon picking up those 2 coins. Zeveron is well aware this has happened, and they are going to do what it takes to deny this turn-in.
Actually, funnily enough, we had 2 coins sitting in the Bruiser camp in the upper right. This will now let Tempo Storm have more than enough coins. They just need the 1 out of 4 that they're holding on to. Like you mentioned, Zeveron realizes this is a very important contention point, and they're going to be holding it out to make sure that they can stop this.
All right, they have eyes on. They throw down the scouting drone to provide even more vision, covering all this area. ETC, it wants to land a huge mosh pit, and Tempo Storm just has to be careful. Both sides have a massive form of lockdown to threaten the opposing team.
Curse Fury looking, he's getting very far forward. He wants to land that mosh pit. He's got the finger on the trigger. He wants to be able to lock down the rest of Tempo Storm, perhaps catching Soldier, but out of position, down to about half HP. Fury actually making use of that power slide to dodge the stun. And he's going in. Is this going to be the opportunity? The silence hits onto Glaurung.
But he does have the Maelstrom going off now. Soldier falls very quickly, but so does ETC. Tanks down for both teams, and we have that Kerrigan in the front line. The heals coming out from Brightwing, keeping her alive, and they're able to pick off another kill. Right now, Equinox should have Burrow Charge just about ready, but even a sprint going forward with the Polymorph to try to secure a kill on Mad Timmy. But no, it's not going to be enough. Fate, though, gets comboed by Glaurung, and that is going to be a 3-for-1 and a turn-in.
Yeah, that's the big story. And of course, I think the trigger moment for Tempo Storm was hitting level 13. They realized they had that extra mobility. Look at that, 3 sprints picked up from Tyrande, from Brightwing and Kerrigan. They want to make sure that they could get the most out of their abilities in the fights. We have the slow from Vala through that frost shot, and of course the burning rage on Muradin.
Really, really exciting stuff. Just respecting that Anubarak having the sprint will make it so much easier to dodge that approach that is so very scary. But right now, we have Zeveron just getting some control on the map. Yes, they are going to lose their final 4 very soon, but if they pick up some bruisers, they pick up some giants, they can regain some composure, and they have hit level 13.
Yes, they realize that there is a level and a half window for Tempo Storm before they hit level 16. They're very much so on the even footing. Yes, slight stat difference between the teams, but they can still take an opportunity for fights. They have a very aggressive team, and there's a lot of opportunity for them to initiate a fight on their terms.
But the unfortunate thing about picking up those mercenary camps is they did in fact concede 10 coins to the chest that did spawn. They need another 8 coins, and look at that, Equinox says exactly enough. This will be a clean turn-in for Zeveron.
Yes, we see the Howl going out. That will reveal the position, but it is too late. Zeveron does get the turn-in. They were relinquishing a lot of coins, actually. Look at that. 24 are being held by Tempo Storm at this point. The middle fort goes down. It looks as though the top fort will be barraged at this point. Not going to be enough structure damage to take out this fort. So it catches them up a little bit in experience. A step in the right direction for Zeveron.
Step in the right direction, but they're still a full level behind right now, and it looks like they're going for the boss, but the Sentinel will hit Faye and reveal their intentions to do this, and we see that Tempo Storm is in hot pursuit of that top lane.
Always on top of the positioning and making sure that they have the full amount of information. This is a game absolutely all about information, and those Sentinels being on point, just making sure they can keep tabs on Zeveron. Are they going to go for that boss? If so, we need to respond. The moment they step out, you look at that. They go to take the fort. Boom. Tempo Storm rotates around, get the turn in.
Yeah, they get that turn in. That will be another bombard on the enemy team. And with Zeveron going for the boss, Tempo Storm expects this as the response from them. They shoot the Sentinel up. This will give them confirmation. The boss will be picked up, but Tempo is pushing into this middle lane. The bombard is coming in, and this keep is going to fall.
Yeah, absolutely. With the additional damage from the heroes on Tempo Storm, they have gotten themselves enough experience. Look at this. True Shot Aura picked up for Tyrande. What do you think about that, Jake?
It's actually quite interesting. It's going to give them just additional damage on the team. When you consider Vala and Kerrigan, they both will really benefit from that bonus damage in the aura.
Absolutely. And the other talents picked up, of course, were 2 Blood for Bloods on Kerrigan and Vala. That's just extra control over the fight and sustain, along with Stone Form on Muradin. That's going to make Tempo Storm a lot harder to kill.
All right, well, we can see this top wall has fallen entirely. The middle keep did, in fact, collapse. That will earn catapults for the middle lane on the side of Tempo Storm for the rest of the game, and Tempo will be able to clean up this Grave Golem before it reaches the keep.
And more importantly, it seems, this has opened the opportunity for Tempo Storm to finish the game if they have a very convincing team fight at this point in time. That has to make Zeveron a little bit scared. They need to make sure their positioning is very much so on point.
But the thing that Zeveron has going for them is they did, in fact, evade a team fight with a talent disadvantage. They have now hit level 16. They're picking up those talents, and we can run through them very quickly.
Okay, we do have the Cold Embrace. That is actually quite a bit more damage output, something of a vulnerability. Wait, is that double vulnerability? with Jaina?
Yes, we have the Numbing Blast, that's the root, and then we do have Encore here. That's going to be the amp left behind, and of course, a Blood for Blood. Tempo Storm pushed in, just providing a bit of aggression, threat, forcing the position on Zeveron, not really intending to kill that keep, just making them go back to base.
That's right, controlling the positioning like you mentioned. And this forces them to back up. They take out the wall for potential later push just to make things easier for them if they find themselves at a slight team fight advantage.
Fury is pushing forward. We have a total of 10 coins on the side of Zeveron, but they need 14. He is going to connect with Arthalon, who is forced to use that sprint as Tempo Storm is currently split with Brightwing and Vala out of this fight.
Look at the confidence in the play from Fury, from the rest of Zeveron backing him up. They realized they could get aggressive as they could see that Brightwing was in the top lane. It does take some time, of course, to phase shift in. They didn't have that time. They needed to back up. A mosh pit at that point when you're down a hero could be devastating.
Right now, Brightwing is, in fact, soaking the top lane, pushing that forward, trying to get a little bit of damage done to that keep, because all of the damage done will make your next siege from Blackheart do even more towards those keeps.
That was a pretty money Shadow Stock, I have to say. That was hitting a lot of targets. Absolutely forced Zeveron to back up. I think they would have liked to settle to take out the keep wall. They weren't even able to get that. Faye forced to back up Dreadnought with the constant push. We have to remember, of course, that the promote was picked up on Brightwing as well. So all this time that she's split pushing across the map, it's even stronger than what you would see normally.
All right, well, this bottom chest is being conceded by Zeveron. They decide to put all of their resources into that top chest. With that, they will collect the 5 coins, but Tempo Storm, they're already starting to turn in. They've got 4 in right now. The poly comes out, but Arthalon wants to play it safe, staying in the back.
A turn-in at this point will absolutely net, I think, either side a keep, which is going to do a lot in terms of setting the pace for the pressure for those minion waves. So we're going to see a huge contention point over this turn-in point that is Blackheart.
Zerglings being summoned by Kerrigan, Beetles being subbed by Anubarak. Everyone is doing what they can to stall this turn-in, but Brightwing, she is currently not in the fight. She will have to phase shift in if Tempo Storm is going to take this, and there she comes.
Okay, we see the Divine Storm and the Silence actually thrown down onto Equinox. Are they going to be able to set up a crazy mosh pit? Fury has actually found himself with low HP. He does get taken out very early in the fight. Uther is also down, does provide the extra heals. Is he going to be able to get Equinox up to get an escape? No, Glaurung actually doesn't end up falling either. This is a huge team fight for Tempo Storm.
I can't believe they took the fight that convincingly, Kubi. The amp was put down by ETC, immediately stopped the strafe, but Tempo had what it took. The heals from Brightwing was enough, and only Sylvanas stands in the way of 5 healthy members pushing down on the core. I think they have done it.
Yes, they have a 20-second window of opportunity to take down this core. It is already falling. The shields are down. The core HP is down to below 50% HP with a ridiculous Game 2 comeback. Tempo Storm has taken the series back 2-1 and will advance to the finals at June 1st.
Congratulations. Advancing here, like you mentioned, they will be coming out to Burbank, California to compete here live for the chance at the $10,000 first place, but at the very least, they are guaranteed $5,000, Kubi.
Yeah, absolutely. So kudos to Tempo Storm, but I have to give credit to Zeveron. They really showed a lot of cohesiveness. Their strategies were on point, a lot of adaptations to the new changes that we saw in this patch, so I'm absolutely excited to see what they bring to us in the future for tournaments that we are going to see down the road.
I mean, they innovated in this series. We saw them pull out that promote, and to the extent where we actually saw Tempo Storm stealing Brightwing and running promote themselves. That is the sign of a very strong team. Zeveron is a very young brand in the Heroes community, and they almost dethroned the team that has more wins than any other team in Heroes of the Storm.
Absolutely crazy series. One for the record books for sure. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, guys. We're going to get what would have been the first series of the map. Hopefully everyone's all set. That's going to be between Cloud9 Maelstrom and 2Art Gaming. We're going to go to a quick commercial